Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving into a really powerful idea that maps out the rise and fall and, well, the rise again of inequality all throughout human history. It's called the Kuznets Curve, and believe me, it tells a fascinating and, maybe a little troubling story about where we've been and where we might be going. Our story really kicks off with this idea of a broken promise. The way the source material frames this is to say that the very things we all thought would bring us prosperity, science, technology, progress, might actually be doing the exact opposite. That's a pretty heavy thought, right? So let's really dig into what that means. Okay, so let's get our key concept on the table. Now, this Kuznets curve isn't some law of physics, right? It's a model, a way to visualize this whole journey of inequality. It basically maps out this arc where, as a society develops, things get way more unequal. Then they start getting better. But, and this is the key, the story might not end on that happy note. All right, to really wrap our heads around this, we're going to build the curve ourselves piece by piece. We'll start with the foundation, the horizontal line on our graph, which is really just the epic story of human history. And here it is. So we're moving from left to right, starting way back with hunter-gatherer societies, moving through the huge changes of the agricultural and industrial ages, and landing right where we are today, in this post-industrial world. That's our timeline. Now for the other part of our graph, the vertical line. And this is where we track inequality. The higher we go, the bigger the gap between the rich and the poor gets. So we've got time chugging along the bottom and inequality climbing up the side. Got it? Good. Way back in those early hunter-gatherer days, down in the bottom left of our chart, inequality was super low. I mean, everybody shared pretty much everything. But then, agriculture happened. For the very first time, people had a surplus, extra food, and that created a whole new kind of problem. Who's going to protect? And wow, this quote really just nails it, doesn't it? This is how you get your first elite class. Society starts rewarding its protectors, its scorpion kings, with power and stuff. And before you know it, those elites start changing the rules to protect themselves, not everybody else. This is where our curve starts to climb, and I mean really climb. So this trend just keeps on going, right? Inequality gets worse and worse, and it finally hits the absolute tippy-top peak of the curve during the agrarian age. Think feudalism. You got kings and lords on top, and pretty much everyone else at the bottom, with a tiny elite controlling, well, everything. But right when things look their absolute bleakest, when inequality is at its maximum, something totally unexpected happens. The industrial age kicks off, and the power dynamics of the world start to flip upside down. The curve, it actually starts to bend back down. So what gives? What changed? Well, with all these workers now packed into factories and cities, they start to realize something. They realize, hey, wait a minute, these factory owners need us. So they organize. They start to push back, demanding their fair share of all this new wealth they're creating. And out of that struggle, the modern welfare state is born. And for the first time in thousands of years, inequality actually starts to go down. And look at this list. These weren't just some abstract ideas. These were real, life-changing demands. Universal health care, education for your kids, a decent wage, a safety net if you lose your job. These are the things we now call the social safety net. Each and every one of these was a hard-fought battle that helped bend that curve back down toward equality. Okay, but here's the rub. All this progress, better pay, benefits, safety, it was great for workers, but it cut into profits. And if your only goal is maximizing profit, all this progress, it's a problem. So as the source explains, capital started looking for a way out. And they found that way out. It's called deindustrialization. Suddenly, capital could move. Factories could just pack up and leave for countries where the wages were lower and the rules were looser. This just stopped that beautiful downward curve dead in its tracks. So this right here is the whole story in a nutshell. You see inequality peak in the agrarian age. Then it drops and hits rock bottom during the high point of the welfare state. But then, as industry leaves, that progress just stalls out. The curve bottoms out, and it starts to creep back up. We're in that second ascent now. So what took the place of all those factory jobs? Well,
the service economy. And let's just look at the difference here. It's pretty stark. The old single-family wage job got replaced with lower-paying service work, where a lot of the time, both partners need to work just to get by. And as for job security and benefits, yeah, they took a massive hit too.
And that's the reality for so many people today. That whole idea that one person with one good job could support an entire family, it's pretty much become a relic of the past for most families. And this huge shift is a major reason why inequality is on the rise again. So what's driving this new upward swing? Well, it's kind of this perfect storm of three huge forces. First, you've got the loss of those good industrial jobs. Second, they're replaced by less secure service work. And third, a brand new and incredibly powerful force is now in the mix. As if that wasn't enough, then you have what the source calls an absolute tsunami of change coming from automation and especially generative AI. I mean, from robots on the factory floor to AI writing code, this technology is shaking up the job market in ways we are just barely starting to comprehend. Which, of course, leaves us with the million-dollar question. Is this it? Is the curve just destined to keep climbing higher and higher? Or, just like people organized a century ago to bend the curve down, can we find a new way to make sure the benefits of all this new progress get shared more fairly? After all, this curve, it isn't a law of nature. It's a story, and we're the ones writing the next chapter.